So a few months ago, I was taking a walk down my office and it started to drizzle. Well, I wasn't expecting that. It was very sunny. But I'm sure many of you in Singapore would be used to that. Extremely sunny, and then it just starts to rain. So as the drops started getting heavier, I quickly dashed into the next building. Thankfully, that building housed a Starbucks. So I took a deep sigh and, soaking in the aroma of the coffee, and I'm just thinking, wow, it's drizzling and, the coffee would be great. And I catch this very friendly face looking at me, the rain or the coffee? And I said, the rain, but the coffee sounds good. And a few exchanges later, we of course exchanged our LinkedIn. And here I am speaking on LinkedIn with the very same gentleman right in front. And that person was David, none other than David. So thank you, David. Yes. And it's actually very, very special. So I wasn't really expecting the topic of this conference to be antimicrobial, targeting AMR, because coincidentally, I used to be a researcher in the same field. You didn't know that, right? Yeah. So I used to work at AstraZeneca in drug discovery. So this doctorate is in cell and molecular biology. And I was, of course, working on target identification and target validation. And sitting here, it was also interesting to hear about the clinical trial implementation and challenges, recruitment, and all that. And I am really hoping that in this 20 minutes that I have with you today, I will be able to inspire you to use LinkedIn and even solve some of these challenges, even related to recruitment. Why does building your personal brand matter? Okay, so it's not just about expanding your network. Of course, here, through a simple exchange of our LinkedIn contact, I'm here, speaking today to an audience that I never thought I would on a different topic years later. What a stroke of serendipity. Really grateful for that. But why does this matter? So I want you to take a moment to think about the power that is there in this room. And the power is the knowledge, the information, and the skills you have in spreading the right information. Because the biggest epidemic today is really the infodemic, too much of information bombardment, and especially with universities like WhatsApp University, etc., spreading misinformation. I am struggling every day to even convince my close friends and family, my dad, to stop taking antibiotics just like that. So even if you know the COVID-19 vaccine hesitancy, my close friends say that they are suffering, from a lot of side effects from the vaccine. Now, we can't blame them. Do they have access to the right information on safety, efficacy, etc., that they can understand in a simple way? Is it only the job of the government to do that? No, because it is our responsibility as researchers, as clinicians, as clinical trial coordinators to really spread the right information. And what happens is when the other people are spreading misinformation, the only way to surpass is by really spreading the right information. It has to be a collective effort. And that is what I'm really hoping to stress through my talk today, and how we can use platforms like LinkedIn to do that very effectively. Now, this is an example here of a very close friend and ex-colleague of mine who shared a story, a very touching and heartfelt real story of how this multi-drug resistant bacterium was the cause of the death of a person very close to him, his dad. So he wrote the story and I was really touched. I could relate so much to it because his dad was suffering from diabetes and the consequences of taking the antibiotic doses, etc., correctly when you have an injury, a wound. So he lost his father just because of this. And I had a chat with him and he said, Lakshmi, it feels so helpless. I am a drug discovery scientist in this field and I lost my dad, because he couldn't convince him to. So it is so important for us to spread the awareness, and he has done this time through LinkedIn. It was not easy for him to write this article, but it was important to educate. And by sharing a personal story, I think it was just extremely powerful. How many of you in this room think or feel that you do not have a personal brand? Who doesn't have a personal brand here? Okay. Okay, good. All right, hold that thought, okay? Okay, so I'm just going to debunk some myths about personal brand. Okay, so all of you here would definitely know this person here, right? Alfred Nobel. Now, what is Alfred Nobel's brand? What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Dynamite.
Oh my God, I should have realized I'm talking to a group of researchers. Okay, what's the next brand? What is the most common or popular brand? Nobel Prize. Yeah, thank you. So you're absolutely right. So we know Alfred Nobel for the fact that he's a benefactor of Nobel Prize. But yes, absolutely. He's like one of the biggest inventors, 350 patents to his credit in the field of explosives. And he's the inventor of dynamite. So really the brand he was actually carrying was that of the Merchant of Death. Right? So how did he know that this was his brand, right? So there was a time, during his research, there were many explosions that happened. Many people, including his brother, lost their lives. And at some point when one of his brothers passed away, the newspaper published an obituary thinking it is he who passed away, and it had this title, The Merchant of Death. So there is some speculation that Alfred actually, speculation that he set aside a big part of his fortune to change this perception about him and being the benefactor of Nobel Prize. Okay, so don't know how true that is because nobody knows the real reason behind this thing. But what I really wanted to convey through this story is that you all have a personal brand, although you didn't know it. Okay, I'll explain why. You do have a personal brand. Okay, because a personal brand is how others think, perceive, and feel about you. Okay, so your brand is what others think, perceive, and feel about you. And this is a lovely book written by one of my mentors, Brenda Benz, who's an expert in branding. Okay, so just like Alfred Nobel, he didn't know that the others were perceiving him as Merchant of Death. So similarly, what are others thinking about you? So it is a perception, it is a thoughts, and also the feeling, that is the emotions associated when they think about you. Remember when I spoke about Starbucks, the aroma of the coffee? I didn't want to drink coffee, but just by being there, the ambience, it evoked the emotions, and I wanted to have a Starbucks coffee. So that is really the power of the brand. Now, today in the remaining time that I have, I'm just going to share very briefly about how you can use LinkedIn to create the perception of you that you want others to have about you. What do you want others to think, perceive, and feel about you when they think about you? So David, obviously, you invited me to give this talk, right? So there was this active brand building that I have been doing on LinkedIn that also creates a perception that, yes, I'm a speaker, I can give a talk, and I'm using LinkedIn effectively. So it's very important because if you ever have Googled yourself, and if you have a LinkedIn profile, your LinkedIn profile will be ranked on the top of everything else. So if you may have spoken, some of you may have spoken at conferences, it will show up as well, but LinkedIn is number one. So it's all the more important to have your profile complete and very clear on LinkedIn, because when people look you up for whatever reason, they want to get the right information about you. Now, this is just to highlight LinkedIn statistics. There are 1 billion users on LinkedIn so far, okay? And then 1.6 million posts every minute on LinkedIn. Yeah, and still the percentage of users on LinkedIn are still less in the sense of people who post actively. So I'm really hoping to encourage you all to start sharing your work on LinkedIn. Now, just to get a sense and temperature of this room, because I think the previous speaker also mentioned about LinkedIn, and thanks for that. Thanks. Yes, so I just want to know what is your LinkedIn use status. So if you can just scan the QR code, it's an anonymous poll. So this is how the profile looks for this room. Okay, it's encouraging to see that very few people do not use LinkedIn at all. Most people use limitedly, moderately. Yeah, but the percentage of people who actually use LinkedIn well to post insights, updates, all of that is really less. So that shows that we are not utilizing the power of this room yet. Okay, so that's what I hope to change in the next few minutes. How can we do that? First and foremost, right, I'm just going to share mindset shifts because I've spoken to a number of researchers, clinicians, and one of the biggest problems is not that you don't have the tools or the skills. It's a mindset issues. So number one, self-promotion. I don't want to, I feel cringe posting on LinkedIn because it looks like self-promotion, right? So what I tell people is, if you don't speak about your work, who will speak about your work? So think of it as science promotion or medicine promotion or whatever you want to call it, it is not self-promotion. This is your responsibility again. So you need to shift your mindset from self-promotion to this. Use it as a science or medical communication exercise. Number two, bragging. I've heard this very much, bragging. I don't want to talk about myself. No, you don't have to share your personal stories all the time, right? But just like my friend did, you can share a story to educate, inform, and inspire people to take the right action. Maybe you are helping to save a life. Who knows, right? So it's about branding. Now, why is branding important? I think you also mentioned trust, right? So trust, that is like, if people want to come to you, if people want to get, be part of the recruitment exercise in your clinical trial, they need to trust you. They need to trust your process. How do you establish that trust? Yes, of course, the credentials, where you work, all that matter. But it's also about how you educate your audience consistently, how you show up for them consistently. So it's about branding yourself the right way to establish your authenticity, credibility, and trust. Next, it's not about taking. So networking, even on LinkedIn, is not about taking. If you can reframe it and think of it as giving, you're adding value. Every single post that you make will add value to the people reading it. So if you can have these mindset shifts before we understand how to do it, that would be a great way to go. Now, how to build your personal brand? This is by LinkedIn. There are 4 categories. So one is establishing your professional brand, and that's the only aspect I'll be talking about today. The rest is all about make connections and how you can do a variety of things on LinkedIn to keep building your brand. The basics first, because some of you mentioned that you don't use LinkedIn at all. Very, very important to set up your profile. And few important things to note is having a profile picture, which is professionally done, right? And you can also edit a banner. LinkedIn provides the option for a banner wherein just take a picture here with the conference background, put it on Canva and make it your background, right? It shows that you are, an infectious diseases professional or whatever that highlights your brand well, can be used on the banner. And then the other things like the headline is, under my name, you see the description, that's the headline. Now, headline is very important because that's what people see about you first. So what do people want to perceive about you is what you put there, okay? And then other sections like about, skills, experience, and education on the LinkedIn, absolute must to fill out. Now, I'll just quickly take you through what are the things you can do and do this on a laptop. That's why I won't ask you to do it on a phone because it's much easier to edit on your laptop. Quickly, few things. Photo banner, I spoke about. Headline. About section is very important. I will show you how to write the about section soon. Indicating your top skills. There are options to indicate top skills and you can get people within this network to vote for your top skills, recommend your top skills. Now, with me, I also have featured sections wherein when you publish posts, you can actually have it feature. I also have additional sections like, I'll just show you the newsletter. Now, the one here, that over there, that is an option for you to edit your URL. If you click that on your laptop, you will see it will have a series of numbers. So you can edit that and make it just having your name. So it's easier for people to search for you and you can also share the profile easily. Okay, I would have loved to do a hands-on workshop, but because of the time, I'm just quickly going through. Now, about section is where you can actually write a little bit of story about you, who you are, what made you get into this field, or something around that line for your story, about your top skills, okay, and 1 to 2 sentences on some social proof. That is like, okay, whatever you've done, like for example, for me, speaking is, a big thing, and I do have some evidence for my speaking and awards or whatever recognitions that I have. Now, again, people say it's cringe to put the awards. But remember, it's not cringe, it's your trust, it's your credibility. I will share these slides maybe later for people to have a closer look at these things. Okay? Now, the most important thing that I wanted to convey to the majority of the audience here who are not very regular posters, how do you actually start posting on LinkedIn? Number one, it's very simple. Okay? Curated content. You don't have to worry about creating your own content. So curated content is when you consume something on LinkedIn, something strikes you as interesting. Like for example, when my friend shared that article, I thought I must share it with my network, right? There is not much effort I need to do when I just repost an article. So all I need to do is summarize my understanding of what antimicrobial resistance is, and so that my network can immediately see the snippets and understand what the article is about. But reposting, when you just repost on LinkedIn, the visibility is less. So what I would even highly recommend you do is, you can take a screenshot of that article like I showed here, and save it, share it as a picture with your insights on the post. Thank the person who shared it. Because networking, and it's all about like giving more to others, give that person visibility. Okay? So that is how you do curated content. So it can be from companies as well. Now, your own content, it can be about your work, your opinion piece, your advice, anything. Or here, please click before you go some snaps with each other and share as an appreciation. Or share what are your key takeaways from this conference. And share it with images, or you can even shoot a quick video with one of the speakers, and these are like creative ways to share your takeaways. Last but not the least, if you don't want to do any of this, you can at least comment on other people's posts with your insights. That also gives visibility and showcases your expertise. Okay, and view this as a science communication exercise. Now, sharing own content, one thing I would really like to highlight is avoid jargon. You may think that you're communicating this to this community, but make it simple and easily understood by other people as well. And AI tools, you can, but limit the use, make it your own as much as possible. So the recap is here, we are almost at the end of the talk. I just want to conclude by saying that you have the power and the responsibility to inform and educate. So please own it. Number 2, take a proactive step towards building your personal brand to create the right perception about you and start using LinkedIn strategically to build your brand. And I want to end just with this thought, start small. What's one small step you can take to take your LinkedIn one step further? Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lakshmi. That's a great way to end. Don't go, because we might get questions.
Oh, okay.
So, Lakshmi, sure. I know there's things like, obviously, Facebook, Instagram, X. So how do you rate those in terms of science vehicles, as compared to social vehicles?
Absolutely. So, see, the advantage of LinkedIn is that only people who really, you have to complete your whole professional profile. So it's much more trustworthy compared to any other platforms. Facebook is, of course, more personal. People do use it, but then it's not as professional as LinkedIn, because LinkedIn has a lot of companies and all of that as well. Now, Twitter, I used to use in the past, right? The problem with Twitter is that it's like an opinion that you put out. And I know that many scientists and researchers prefer to use Twitter It's easy to retweet and, there is something, but it limits the amount of information that you can actually share. Plus, you don't really know, the credibility as compared to LinkedIn is far less for other platforms, which is why LinkedIn, and people hesitate to use LinkedIn, and I wanted to share this as well, because other reasons why people don't want to share is because, as researchers, we think that the one thing that we share must be supported by 5 references minimally. Okay, so I changed this perception when I started moving with the business community, and I'm having a conversation with someone, and the next day the post is out, and I'm like, hey, that was my idea, right? They just post like that, the business community, people, entrepreneurs. So as people in research, we need to let go of the fact that LinkedIn post is not a research article, right? Just by you sharing that information, it's already trustworthy, and you can put the references in the comments if you want. I do that often for my articles. Yeah.
And I guess, many of us had experience during COVID as infection control professionals or prescribers of antivirals. Twitter was a particularly nasty place. I don't know much about LinkedIn. Is it, does it have nastiness, or is it quite a different level of discussion?
Yeah, it's...
Sorry, I'm sure there's nastiness.
There is, especially I think people can actually latch on to something and, start saying things, right? But LinkedIn, it is less compared to Twitter because your identity will be known, right? So unless it is like a bot or, something like really is, and I've heard many top influencers talk about it, this trolling and all that happens on LinkedIn, but it's much less compared to other platforms. And you can block people easily. Yeah.
So questions, a couple of minutes for questions. If anyone wasn't crystal clear about some of the things that Lakshmi said in terms of getting going.
Or who here would actually take that small step? I want to see. Who here would take that small step towards using LinkedIn? I want to see all the hands up.
There's 2 hands.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, thank you so much for coming. I know, we had a scientific meeting, but this is something else, but I think it will be very valuable.
Yeah,
I think what you said about it not being bragging is important, because I think in many of our cultures, self-promotion is a bit funny.
Yeah, and it's such a meaningful talk for me to give it to my community, actually, end of the day. So, and anyone has any questions, because I know I went very fast, please do connect with me on LinkedIn, message me, and happy to take it up from there over a coffee or whatever. Yeah, virtual call. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks
Thank you.